Okay, thank you.
Ben, if I can, and if I can make a suggestion, since Kathy Woodard is the only person in the audience, we might you might want to change up your presentation a little bit and just make this, go ahead and promote her to a panelist and make this more of a conversation. If other people show up, we can move things back. Is that okay with you?
Move her to a panelist, but what I did is I gave her permission
to
talk. So
and
she's
my last name just happens to be Woodard. I'm not part of Woodard Properties.
Okay. Well, there you go. If you want to take it away, Ben, I'll sit back and stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome, everyone. This is the community outreach meeting for Skyline Ridge Apartments. This is intended to give an overview for the community for this particular application, which is a rezoning application. And it's a rezoning application that will address a zoning overlay or a steep slopes overlay. So I'll give a brief staff introduction to the project, and then Scott Collins, who is representing the applicant, is going to provide the rest of the information. Also, we have Bill Fritz with the county staff joining me, and he will also be available to answer any questions that anyone has. Okay. I'm going to do a share screen, see if I can get my presentation loaded. Okay. All right, so again, the purpose of this meeting is to share information about the project and to solicit public input. A summary of any input from this meeting will be included in the staff report that's going to be reviewed by the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. So just a real quick overview of zoning and by right development process overview. The first regulations we're going to talk about are the zoning regulations, which describes or dictates what a property owner can build based on what zone their property is in. And ultimately, these zoning regulations are intended to protect the health, safety, and welfare of residents. Comprehensive plan is the other component that will guide these types of applications. That's a long-range plan or a 20-year vision for the county. The comprehensive plan contains overarching policies, recommendations, and incorporates each of the master plans and small area plans, which are adopted by the Board of Supervisors. These plans and recommendations are developed and then extensive engagement with community members, especially those affected.
Hey, Ben, so, this is Diantha. Not to interrupt, but you might want to switch off of your notes screen to your full screen. I think we could see it a little bit better, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
We're seeing your notes and everything and not the full screen. Just make, because you're probably going to get to some pictures we're going to want to see the whole, you know, the bigger.
Yeah, let me turn those notes off. Sorry, I didn't realize that was
not a problem.
Let's see.
If you go down in the lower right-hand corner, Ben, where the little plus minus thing is, so just to the left of the minus, you click on that. Go left a little bit, left, little. Nope, that right there. Click that.
That one. Okay.
That should move you into presentation mode. And up at the lower right, up top left, it says resume slideshow. That should get you there, if my memory serves me right. Nope, that's not doing it.
I apologize. Let me.
It's not a big deal. I just thought if you could do it, it would be helpful. That's okay.
Yeah. Where does he need to click?
Let's go to slideshow from beginning.
Here we go. I think I found it.
I have an answer for you. Up at the very top where it says slideshow, click on that at the very top.
Yep.
Now you should be able to click from beginning or from current slide. That should do it. don't know why that's not working. Sorry.
Yeah, and I selected off the presenter view so that it should not have the notes. Hang on one moment. If I can't remove those in a second, I'll just continue on.
Sorry, I didn't mean to create a problem.
It's okay. All right, I apologize. It looks like the notes are here to stay. I can still zoom in, I believe, on the file. Let's see. Nope. Okay. One moment. All right, so we'll just pick off where we left off. The future land use has recommendations for the properties and how they can be used. You know what? Now I'm frozen. My slide won't advance. There we go.
You might want to do, Ben, is close everything in the background. You have a lot of things open, which could be
Sure.
part of your issue. I would shut down everything and then open up your PowerPoint again and try to do it in the presentation mode.
Okay.
This is a troubleshooting exercise for me too. Now I'll know what to try when the same thing happens to me.
And if you need me to, Ben, I can just share my screen because I have the same presentation.
Sure, thank you. All right, one more time here. Okay, can you all see my screen?
No, not yet.
Tell you what, Ben, let me just share my screen real quick.
Okay. All right, thanks, Bill. I think we were on slide number 8.
There you go.
Okay. So we can go ahead and skip to the next. All right, so rezoning applications next. A rezoning application or a zoning map amendment seeks to change a property zoning, also known as rezoning. The application is reviewed for consistency with the future land use within the comprehensive plan and the master plan. It's also subject to state and local authority standards, regulations, and it may also be subject to the Architectural Review Board or ARB if it's located within an entrance corridor, which does not apply in this case. Next. So a legislative review, when a property owner seeks to change the zoning, the application goes to the Board of Supervisors and their approval is required. The process is called a legislative review. So the application is first reviewed by county staff and other applicable agencies such as VDOT, water and sewer. And then once it goes through that initial staff review, agency review, the project or application goes to the Planning Commission for a recommendation, and then ultimately the Board of Supervisors for that final decision. Next. So here's our particular application. The subject property is just under 5 acres in size. Location is just west of the town of Charlottesville. You can see the gray area is the town boundary. The property is located just at the end of Colonnade Drive off of Ivy Road. The intersection just to the north there is Colonnade and Ivy. This is within the Jack Jouett Magisterial District. And ultimately, the applicant would like to construct a 74-unit apartment complex. So there's some more history behind this project. Applicant, Mr. Collins, can go into that in greater detail, but a construction was initially begun in the 1990s, and that project was ultimately halted, and that site plan has since expired. So the comprehensive plan, this shows the land use as dictated by the comp plan. The orange is urban density residential. That's a medium to high density residential designation. It's intended for residential use, can also include such things as places of worship, schools, and institution uses. The green areas are the parks and green systems. This is intended as open space. And in the following slides, you'll see that the green space kind of corresponds with what is designated as steep slopes area on this property. You can go to the next. All right, so the existing zoning for the property is R15 residential. That's a residential zoning that allows up to 15 dwelling units per acre. And there are 2 applicable zoning overlays, and one is the airport impact area being on the west side of town and within the airport approach area. And the other one, which is the key overlay for this particular application, is the steep slopes. There are both managed and preserved slopes within steep slopes overlay. This property has preserved slopes, and we'll talk more about that in detail. Next. So the applicant is not proposing to change the underlying R15 zoning. So that primary zoning category would remain the same. What they're looking to change specifically is the steep slopes overlay. This map shows the parcel is defined in the dark blue outline, and then the pink outline is what the applicant is calling the proposed area disturbance, or the project area, where the actual grading and site work would be done. The dark green shaded area is currently defined as preserved slopes, so it's protected, and development is restricted within that area. The applicant would like to redefine or reclassify those areas as managed slopes. And you can skip to the next. So managed slopes, it retains the by right zoning uses if that's the overlay within the project area. One of the thing about, managed slopes, one aspect of the definition of managed slopes within the zoning ordinance is that it can include areas that were significantly disturbed prior to June 2012. And that's when the ordinance for the steep slopes overlay went into effect. And that's the argument the applicant is making here, because this project area was graded in the late 90s. And they contend that these slopes within this development area have already been affected, and they're not naturally occurring slopes. And Bill, I'll let you jump in if you wanted to add anything else about the steep slopes overlay.
I think I'll let you keep going, and then if there are questions, I'll go ahead and jump in.
Sure, and you can move on to the next slide. So as the general timeline of this particular project, staff provided comments to the applicant earlier this month, November 10th. The project will soon go to Planning Commission and then the Board of Supervisors. There has been no date set for that Planning Commission meeting. Earliest that would occur in January of this coming year. But notice will be sent to abutting landowners once that date is set for the Planning Commission meeting. And if there are any attendees who are not within a parcel that abuts or is situated next to the subject parcel, just email staff and we'll be sure to send you notice prior to that meeting. And that's all I have. If there's any comments or questions, you can submit those at the end of the meeting, and I'll make sure that my email is available as well. So I'm going to hand it over at this point to the applicant, unless Bill had anything else to add.
Yeah, I was just going to point out also, we'll circle back on this, but this presentation is also being recorded. So if anyone wants to go back and actually look at any of this information, it's available. And of course, if you want the comments, we can get those to you. Just get in touch with Ben. He can tell you how to get those comments. They're available through County View right now. That's all. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have questions about the steep slopes. But other than that, we'll just turn it over to Scott.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank
Scott.
you guys. Appreciate it. Thanks, Ben. That was a great presentation. Actually took care of about 80% of stuff I was going to talk about, but I'll try not to repeat too much. I'm going to start by sharing my screen here. Let's see. Can everybody see it?
Yeah, we can see
Yes.
it.
Okay, cool. So as Ben noted, it's at the end of Colonnade Drive right here. That's the subject parcel right there, about 4.96 acres right there. And I wanted, as Ben noted, the project started, it received site plan approval and got a land disturbance permit in 1997. And they started work. They actually graded the site, put in some utilities. I'll show you what they would look like. In 1996, you can see it hadn't started yet. And then by 2000, you can see where between 1996 and 2000, which was when they started about 1997, they cleared the site. They went ahead and graded it, put in erosion and sediment control measures along the site, and started running utilities to the site. They started installing sanitary sewer and storm pipes to the site. This is 2002, where it looked like it was still cleared. Construction halted sometime around this period, around 99, 2000. It was stopped due to timing, market demands, and construction costs. A number of issues that kind of led to the halting of the project at that time. And as you can see, and they went back in and basically restabilized the areas. E&S controls remained in place, but ultimately in 2010, it became restabilized to its current condition now, which is basically a stabilized piece of property in 2020. So that was the project had started, but that's its current state now. So we are looking at going forward with the rezoning for the steep slopes that are on the site. Let me pull my other one. So this was the original site plan. This is an excerpt from the original site plan from 1996, 1997. And you can see that within the limits of disturbance, basically within this area right here, there were some critical slopes identified by the county back at that time. And they received a critical slopes waiver approval for the impact of these critical slopes within this limits of disturbance at the time for the approvals. And we have the documentation from the county on that approval of the critical slopes. And that's what gave them the ability to go in and start the project as well. This kind of highlights that a little bit better. The red is the limits of disturbance associated with that approved site plan, and the orange was the approved critical slope impacts. And this was the original building, that 74 unit apartment complex with the original site plan. This is what they're proposing to come back with. It would be very similar to this design. You know, the building might expand a couple of feet here, tweak, condense a couple of feet there, but for the most part, it's going to be this sort of L-shaped or almost L-shaped building here, lining up on the site with some parking underground and some parking out front as well. And the access will come in off the cul-de-sac and work its way around. And then this will extend on and provide access up to the existing service authority water tank up here at the top of the site. Well, that's actually off site, but just to the top of the site. And so this is the present day current grading, which you'll see here. Again, the red is our proposed limits of disturbance for our site plan. We're not changing that. We're staying in with we're going to stay within the same limits of disturbance that was part of the approved plan. And you can see the red contours here overlaid. That was recently topoed area along the site, and that's what sort of produced these new slopes across the site. As you remember, there were preserved slopes. There were critical slopes on the site that were impacted in 1997. Then they graded this site out, and then it got restabilized. But this grading that was left on the site when it got graded out created slopes that were greater than 25%. They were probably, a lot of them were probably 2-to-1 slopes and 3-to-1 slopes. And when between 2000 and 2010, when the property, with GIS surveying, and then with the overlay of the preserved slopes, these graded areas became preserved slopes based on the county ordinance. And that's what we're looking, that's why we're here talking about a rezoning. These are the slopes that we created that are now considered preserved slopes. And this gives you an idea of what's actually considered the preserved slopes based on the field conditions. So the county allows you to look at the slopes if you have a field run topo of the site and compare it to the GIS topo. And if you find areas that are not as steep as 25%, they would not be classified as preserved slopes. So we've done that overlay, and that's what this provides. So everything in orange is the actual true preserved slopes of the site, and those are the ones we're looking to get approval for impacts that would become managed slopes. And then this just gives you an idea of the overlay with the building and the site and how it all sort of overlays and looks. And you can see we're still staying in the original limits of disturbance and how it all sort of overlay with that. But that's really the main items that I wanted to kind of share tonight, and really just sort of ask, be available to answer any questions. But that's kind of the main gist. And I can pull this back. I can leave this screen up if y'all want me to. Sorry, I probably closed that out too quickly.
And Scott, while you're doing that, well, you've already done it. This information, based on my memory, is all is the same information that is in your application packet. That is also available on the County View site. So if you wanted to see any of this, it's already currently available.
That's true, yes.
Yeah, just wanted to point that out.
And the applicants are here as well. Keith Willard and Chris, they're available as well. I'm not sure if y'all want to say anything about it.
I think Julian has his hand up. He has a question.
Thank you. Scott, let me back up a little bit. So did I understand you to say that the slopes which you are bringing back before the Board of Supervisors and prior to that, the Planning Commission, the slopes that we're looking at, I guess that's sort of that taupe color there, those are slopes that were created by the project. So that's the result of you all moving dirt.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And because of a change in ordinance, the slopes that you created are now characterized as preserved slopes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the slopes and the boundaries which you agreed to back in, this is one of those little bugaboos for me, that projects get told yes, and then they kind of sit in the deep freeze for 500 years until something else shows up. But I can only just say that that's a bugaboo. I can't do anything else. So the slopes that you agreed to at that point, have you preserved them? Have you stayed within the confines of that map? And then let me answer the question I believe that you're going to say yes to. And that's the land outside of the red lines there, the red boundary.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay.
Julian, I just want to add something here
Please do.
to make sure that you're getting both sides of the story. Part of what we're doing as staff is we're trying to verify the nature of the slopes. Are they truly manufactured, or are they natural, or are they mixed? And we can pretty much guarantee that there are some areas in there that are not natural, that are manufactured, but we're trying to verify that also. And that's part of our review.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Bill, that's helpful. Thank you. And I see Frank Pohl is on Frank, did you want to add anything? When I see you there, I don't feel left out.
Hello. No, I think, unless you have any questions, there's nothing else to add. They basically graded the site as what you see here within those limits, and they stopped, and then their site plan went away, and now they want to build what they were previously going to build. And unfortunately, there's well, not unfortunately, but whatever the case may be, that we have to go through this process to allow that. So I don't have anything else to add, though.
Yeah.
One other thing I'd like to add, nobody brought it up in their presentation, but if the Board of Supervisors approves the switching of these from preserved slopes to managed slopes, it's important to note that while managed slopes can be disturbed, they must meet certain performance standards. So it isn't a free-for-all. They have additional regulations on them to minimize the adverse impacts that grading those and disturbing those kind of slopes can generate. So just wanted to point that out, that they would still be subject to the performance regulations for managed slopes. And I don't know if our member of the public has any questions. I want to make sure that this is a community meeting, so I want to make sure that we reach out as much as possible. So if there are any questions that you have, shout out, email them, chat. I guess this chat function's turned off. Is that right, Carolyn?
That is correct. We don't use chat, but Kathy, all you have to do is unmute yourself and
Sure.
away.
And I live in Poplar Glen, and I received the notice, and thought I would listen in. I think my only concerns are, you know, how this might impact our neighborhood. Because of the slopes, I'm not sure if there would be erosion issues. I mean, not only for us, but more directly, I think for the apartments that end there at the end of Colonnade Drive. But those are really my only concerns.
And speak a little bit to that. Poplar Glen was constructed on in a similar mountainous terrain. When that went in, I was involved in that from a developer perspective. And this project, just like Poplar Glen, will still have to meet all of the state requirements for erosion and sediment control. There will be an approval or a plan that will have to be approved, reviewed and approved for erosion, sediment control and stormwater. And they will have to meet the new regulations for both of those plans. There's no grandfathering here. So there will probably be some retaining walls. The maximum retaining wall heights are 6 feet now. As Bill said, the new regulations will still have to be met. By new, I mean there's 6 foot height maximums when you're within those slopes. In fact, Bill, I think 6 foot height is the maximum regardless if you're within the slopes or not, if I recall. Before they only used to apply to
So yes, there's a 6
managed
foot,
slopes.
yeah, there's a 6 foot maximum retaining wall height, but there's also other regulations that weren't in place when Poplar Glen was done. There's the maximum run and for that stormwater can go over a slope, how the toe of the slope is dealt with, terracing, things like that. So there are different regulations that are there's much more control now than there was when Poplar Glen was developed.
So I think that it's yeah. So I think from that perspective, we'll be reviewing those plans. They still have to go through those approvals, and those requirements will still be there. So
Thank you. I appreciate it.
you're welcome.
Does anyone have anything else? Any other questions they want to ask that we can try to answer?
I don't have anything at this time. This is Diane.
The only thing that I will be interested in hearing, and not right now though, but certainly the comparison, Bill, as you said, the comparison about what staff's finding on the grounds would be once they get an opportunity to look at this, look at what's been disturbed and what's been preserved. That certainly will be very, very helpful. And to have, I know it's sometimes difficult to be able to do those overlays so that you can put things on top of it to show what areas have been what were included originally and what's been disturbed over those years, and then what staff's finding is vis-a-vis all that.
A lot of that information's in the applicant's packet. That was something we asked for and the applicant provided, and so we're reviewing.
Yeah, so that information has already that has already been determined. So they're showing that in here with the difference, the orange areas. I think, Scott, I think you spoke to this, are actually surveyed critical slopes or preserved or steep slopes.
Surveyed 25% or greater.
Yeah, and then the green areas within that red envelope, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, are not actually 25% or greater, or is that
correct?
Okay. So there's your overlay, Julian.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Frank.
Yeah, you're further along than I thought you were.
We had asked for that information during the initial pre-application meetings.
Yeah, that's good.
The applicant put together a pretty comprehensive packet. There's a lot of information to go through there. So.
Cool.
Excellent.
And I'd like to add that application, that information, which includes a project narrative, and it shows these original site plans, that's available to anybody who wants to view those if you'll just follow the links that were posted in the meeting agenda.
And I followed those links, but I was still unable to get access. I had emailed Mr. Holt and let him know that I was unable to access those.
We'll get them to you. What, you emailed Ben
I
already?
did, yes.
Okay.
I never saw that email. Do you recall what date you sent that,
I
Kathy?
believe I sent it on either Saturday or Sunday.
If
And
you
I
could-
did the bholt@albemarle.org.
Okay, I'll be sure to follow up with you afterwards. I'll
Okay,
make
I
sure you get
appreciate
those-
it. I was just
those
curious.
documents. Yeah.
Thank you.
And you can, if you have a trouble, if that email address doesn't seem to be working for some reason, or we've had some issues where I think Scott had an issue just recently with one of our other staff people where it went to their junk email. You can also email me, bfritz@albemarle.org, and I'll try to forward it to Ben.
I do have a quick question, and maybe this is for Ben. Who was on the distribution list for notices for this? Just curious. I mean, not
Yeah,
obviously, I mean, neighborhoods and areas, right?
Yeah, it was an area within 500 feet of the project. I can show you a map.
How many people was it, Ben? I'm trying to remember, like 60 notices? Is that what it was?
I think it ended up being more like 3 dozen different addresses.
Because there were some duplicates. Yeah.
Once you took out the duplicates, correct.
Yeah, obviously Poplar Glen, and I'm just curious as to what the,
Yeah, we did the 500 foot from the property radius map is what we, for this one.
okay.
Scott, do you have any, oh, Julian?
When you did that one, did the 500 feet bring you into the city, into the city's jurisdiction? Do you know, just by chance?
I don't recall. I actually did the map and I don't remember.
Okay.
No, Julian, it did not.
Ben or Scott, do you have any final words you want to say? Otherwise we can wrap it up. If nobody has any other questions.
I'm good on my end. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott.
Fine.
Well, with that, I guess we will call it a night, Ben, unless you have anything.
Kathy, we're glad you joined us.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for
Absolutely.
coming. If you need anything from us, just email us and we'll be happy to get it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See you all later. Thank you, Carolyn, for setting this up.
No
See you
problem,
later.
everybody.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, Carolyn. Bye-bye.